Hey everyone, welcome to George's Library. My name is George, and today I want to talk about Kukum by Michel Jean. Kukum is one of those books that feel very quiet on the surface, but carry a lot of weight underneath. When I started reading it, it wasn't quite clear what kind of story it wanted to be. The writing is simple, almost restrained. The chapters move quickly. There's no dramatic build-up, no obvious attempt to overwhelm you emotionally. But then something shifted. Kukum tells the story of Almanda, a woman who leaves her life behind to follow a man into an Innu community in northern Quebec. And from there, the novel traces a life shaped by land, family, and eventually by loss. Especially the kind of loss that comes with cultural displacement and erasure. What really stays with you is how the book refuses to dramatize that experience in the way you might expect of such a book. There are moments in this story that in another book would be written as devastating, emotional peaks, but here they're told with a kind of calm clarity, almost as if the narrative is saying, this is not exceptional, this is part of a larger, ongoing history. And that's where learning a little bit about Michel Jean started to change how I read the book. Jean is of Innu heritage himself, and Kukum is inspired by his own great-grandmother's story. It's not presented as a fictionalized epic. It feels closer to an act of remembrance, of preservation. And once I understood that, the tone made a lot more sense. The simplicity isn't a limitation, it's a choice. It avoids turning the story into a spectacle. It doesn't center the reader's emotional reaction. Instead, it creates space for something quieter, more grounded. Almost like the book is stepping back and letting the life it's portraying speak for itself. There's also a strong sense of connection to land throughout the novel. Not in a romanticized way, but in a practical, lived kind of way. The rhythms of daily life, the movement through seasons, the way identity is tied to place, all of that feels very present, but never overstated. And then slowly that connection begins to fracture. And what I found particularly powerful is how the book handles colonization. Not as a distant historical event, but as something that gradually intrudes, reshapes, and ultimately disrupts a way of life. It's not framed through confrontation or dramatic conflict. It's quieter than that, but also in some ways more devastating, because it feels inevitable. And again, the book doesn't stop to explain or emphasize the devastation. It just continues forward. And as a reader, you're left to sit with it. It's not a book that guides your feelings, and maybe that might make Kukum a little emotionally distant for some readers. It doesn't tell you when to grieve or how to react. But for me, that's exactly what made the story so powerful. It felt respectful. It felt like the story wasn't being shaped for me, but shared with me. Structurally, the novel is very direct. There's no fragmentation, no experimentation with form. And I think the clarity serves the story very well. It keeps the focus on the life being lived rather than how the story is being told. By the end, I didn't feel like I read something dramatic or overwhelming. I felt like I had been allowed to witness something quietly important. And I think that's where Kukum stays with you. Not in big emotional moments, but in the accumulation of small ones. In the sense of a life shaped by forces larger than itself, told without exaggeration, but with care. And that being said, thank you for listening. I hope you stay safe, be kind, and keep on reading. I'll see you next time.